And a very warm welcome to SDIG Global Conference 2025. SDIG's Global Conference this year is focused around beyond boundaries, building bridges in education, wellness, and AI for transformative growth, amongst several other subjects as well. Your hosts for the next few hours will be Dr. Joseph Nwoye, the president and founder of SDIG, and Dr. Karen Walker, who has been an SDIG stalwart for quite some time. Dr. Walker is an IOP specialist, which stands for Industrial Organizational Psychology, which means she's very clever. It also means that she's extremely good at organizing things, which is very helpful for all of us here. It's a pleasure to have you joining us. We'll be going through the afternoon in a number of sessions, and we're crossing across all continents of the world with those attendees who are joining us from around the world, and also the panelists who are with us as well. So it is my very great pleasure to welcome all of you to SDIG Global Conference 2025 and to introduce your host, Dr. Joseph Nwoye, President and founder of the Systemic Diversity and Inclusion Group. Dr. Nwoye,
great
information.
Welcome. I'm going to move on to our next speaker, which is Miss Khalilah Thomas, and we just appreciate Miss Thomas being able to join us. So welcome.
Hello.
So I can see you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Walker, for that kind introduction, and thank you to SDIG for the opportunity to share some words with you all today. I'd also like to thank the rest of the organizing team for putting together this wonderful virtual conference. I personally enjoyed each of the panels today, and I really thought there were very thoughtful remarks on clearly very important topics. So as you heard in the introduction, or might have read in my bio, I was in the military for almost 25 years. So my remarks are going to come from that viewpoint. I hope you can give me that grace, since I know this may not be the normal audience for listening to military folks speak. In my 2+ decades of service, I saw and experienced a lot of change. Some of it was welcome change, and some of that was not, but change it did anyway. Two central themes that ran through these changes. First, the evolution of technology and its impact on how we do daily and not so daily business. Second, the seemingly diminishing ability to think critically and creatively. As you can imagine, when these two things don't move in tandem, we might have a problem. We have a mismatch of what we think is possible and what is possible. The panelists today have talked a lot about this in one way or another. A quick story. When I was less than 2 years into my military service, picture, 23-year-old me around 2003, I ran a warehouse. 90% of what we did was manual. Manual requests, manual routing of those requests, manual order fulfillment. There was a lot of paper and a lot of time. A lot of paper that was hard to keep track of, to search through if we needed to manage when we needed to do reconciliations. At the time, I thought it would be fun to teach myself to use Microsoft Access. Does anybody remember Microsoft Access? It's the precursor to SQL, even though Access is actually still around. Anyway, I created a database of what I had on hand, where it was in my warehouse, and what we had issued out. In 2003 in the military, there were no such things as digitized records or versions of my inventory. So I created it. I also added a feature to capture customer signatures. I thought it was the absolute coolest thing for me and my team to have this. My chief, however, did not like the change. I think he thought that it was just too hard to fully implement, especially since this was kind of groundbreaking at the time. He, to point out, had been in the military about 17 years at this point, so he, far surpassed me in experience. So he thought he could beat me out as a youngster. So when I took some time off, he made our team revert back to the old way of doing business. This incident was pivotal in my development in the military, not only as a leader, but as a supply operations specialist. After he and I talked it out, we eventually returned to making our records digital. Clearly, I was right, because in the long run, as we all know, everything is now digital, and manual options are just the backup. I'd love to have a conversation with him now about how we'd implement other automation or AI into our workflows. Would he be as hesitant today as he was then? And if so, I'd be curious as to why. And I believe this still relates to the panel that talked about expanding technology options and AI as primary drivers of growth and innovation for small business. I'm here to tell you that not only is this important to small businesses, because it's also important to the military, extremely important to big business, important within the military directly, and important because of the nexus of small and big business with military needs. This is essentially the defense industrial based ecosystem at its core, and academia is also a part of this. The past 20 years has seen a consolidation of the defense industrial base in the United States, meaning that where there were 50 notable companies working primarily on defense-related equipment and supplies, we now have 5. Technology, automation, AI, and quite frankly, less money are all part of reasons for this reduction. What the wars in Ukraine and Israel have shown us, however, is that number is insufficient to support a ramp up if and when we do need it. We could honestly talk for hours about how the US, specifically the defense industrial base, has changed. What's interesting is that technology, automation, and AI are likely the tools we'll have to use to return to a position of reliable production. These, along with education, are the keys to ensuring that there is opportunity for resilient, combat-ready enterprises across multiple industries and specialties. I see the need to improve our defense industrial base as both a short-term and long-term challenge. These challenges, however, can only be mitigated through education, because how else can we compete in tech and AI, as a lot of you have talked about today? I mentioned in my opening that one of the things I observed over the years is how difficult it is to get individuals to think critically, creatively, or both. The rise of the smartphone and a world of knowledge at everyone's fingertips has actually, in my opinion, hurt more than it's helped in this regard. I know a speaker earlier mentioned that a smartphone in the hands of somebody in an outstation is actually opportunity, and that is true. But again, on the flip side, I think it's made us a little bit lazy. I'm a victim of this too myself. Sometimes being able to remember basic information or needing to commit to memory basic or complex information is difficult with so much noise and distraction available. This is why when I've asked someone to put down their phone to look at a problem and work through a solution from their base knowledge, I get blank or anxious stares. I hope you can appreciate how bad this could be in a situation where violence or conflict is present. There is also an unwillingness sometimes to think outside the box and take action. In an earlier panel, the idea of intellectual risk-taking was mentioned. I love this point because when someone feels safe in the space, they're willing to take more of a chance. Fear of failure is real, I get it, but rarely can there be progress without failure. For the last 3 years, I've been teaching at the graduate level, teaching mid-career military and other government agency personnel who should by this point have a breadth of knowledge, yet I saw these stares happening time and again. Granted, by the time the program ended, they were all in a much better place and well prepared to take on the next challenge, but it did make me wonder, what are we teaching our kids or showing our kids since I was in high school that this is so prevalent in adults now, this fear of failure? I was excited about the panel on education. Ensuring that everyone has access to quality education is vital to the long-term health of any nation. What I mean by quality education is well-rounded, from topics on language to literature to STEM to financial literacy to kindness and teamwork, taught in such a way that students can grasp and hold on to it. This is important in the multicultural and multilingual nation and world we live in. By now, we all know that not everyone learns in the same way. Some are visual learners, some are better with hands-on, and not everyone has a support system at home that can fill the gap they might need. Our schools, public and private, have the Herculean task of figuring out what each of their students needs and providing it. It's also crucial to maintaining a superior military that quality education is the norm and not the exception. In the past decade or so, there have been 3 primary challenges to recruiting for the US military. 1 is propensity to serve, 2 is a healthy economy, and 3 is the ability to serve. Ability to serve means you can physically and mentally do the job. Most branches of service have had to rethink what minimum standards must be meant to join. There are programs the armed forces have in place to prepare those that want to join the service, but can't meet the standards. But I argue it's a better solution for us as a nation to expose young kids to what the military is and what benefit they can get from being willing to serve, just like we do when we're talking about them being doctors, lawyers, teachers, firefighters. All of which you can do in the military, I might add. So why am I saying all this to you in this venue? Because I'm encouraged by the work you're all doing and the broad audience you are trying to reach. Every topic touched on today, health equity, use of AI in education, use of AI in business, organizational change best practices, leading with heart, emotional intelligence, all apply to what the military is facing. Other than mentioning war as another use for drones in the discussion on the drones and policing, I don't think I heard much national security or security defense mentioned, which is interesting because of the talk of AI. So I have an ask for you as we end the day. Can you consider national security applications and a military audience when you do your work and research? What I've done for years and what you do now are not mutually exclusive, even at times, and in some folks' minds, they are. Please don't be discouraged. As a military member, I know we need the work you're doing to help us not just maintain, but elevate what we can do on behalf of the nation and others. One last story. I've been fortunate enough to travel the world in my work and in my personal time. In early 2024, I took a trip to South Africa with my aunt as part of a larger tour group. We had one day in Johannesburg. On that day, in addition to seeing the home of Nelson Mandela and where he went to school as a child, we visited historic Kliptown, which is one of the oldest townships in Johannesburg. Kliptown is an area of homes made of what building materials happen to be available to provide shelter and a water well shared by countless families for bathing and cooking. But there, amid what can only be described as a shantytown, is a modern building and a small campus for the Kliptown Youth Program. The community of Kliptown and Soweto created a program that offers tutoring and opportunities to play sports and participate in the arts for kids of all ages. The group's goal is to, in their own words, turn poverty into opportunity. It really was beautiful to see the energy, time, and money being put towards the youth program above other priorities, of which I'm sure there are many. There are murals on campus, and one of them reads, "You are carried on the shoulders of those who cannot see. The landscape you describe, you owe them more than your weight. Thank you for the work that you all do. You are definitely carrying more than your weight. I will strive to carry some of that for you going forward." Thanks again for allowing me to join you today.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Khalilah. I heard you give us a charge in there of what we can continue to look at, and I really appreciate that, to challenge us as well to go above and beyond. So just appreciate your perspective and you joining us today as well. So thank you so much.